people have been using other collaborative planning tools like Figma and Miro in order to collaborate with different teams and, make boards and even Jira. So Whiteboard to me was a surprise because it comes with a lot of templates that you could just use right out of the box, right? Especially if you're doing a brainstorming session, if you are collaborating with the team where they're just trying to gather feedback. It's been good for that. It also has been good for creating flow charts and processes. And I think that it's underused. I think people just think of it as a place to scribble.
Hello, and welcome to yet another episode of CSA's Collab Space. Shanell Copeland, she was on in the very beginning episodes of the podcast, and it was more from a business perspective. So now she's here today. We're talking about the technical perspectives, and I think maybe it was like episode 2 or 3 that I did. It was more product-based versus interviews. So we're shifting gears again this time around. Just to mix it up a little bit, give it some flavor. So we're going to just kind of go through some of the Microsoft features that we have seen, that we have used with various clients, projects, some of the features that are rolling out, some of the ways that we find information about what's rolling out, because there are a ton of updates all the time.
All the time.
So Shanell, go ahead and kick it off.
Thank you again for having me on the show. I really appreciate it. And I always enjoy spending time with you. We just supposed to be working and we always still have a good time. So I appreciate it. So today we're just talking about Microsoft products that you already have and then you didn't know you had and that you probably need. So we're just going to dive into some of the basics and for Microsoft 365. And then I also want to ask about, your experiences in your environments about, different tools that people are using and how they feel about it and, so on and so forth. So I don't know, you want me to start or you want to start?
Yeah, go ahead and start.
So my main thing was Copilot. I have been getting a lot of requests and, desire to try Copilot and, does it really work the way that, Microsoft it said it was going to work? Is it better than using ChatGPT or all of those things? So I just wanted to see what your experiences have been in your environments, because for me, I've been getting a lot of requests, but it's not all the hoopla that I thought it was going to be. And maybe I'm just not using it right. Maybe I am not putting in the right criteria to bring up what it is that I'm searching for. So what are your thoughts? Because I'm finding that if you don't put in the specifics of write this, blog using a soft voice or a professional tone, or if you don't give it all of these directions, then you may or may not get what you intended to get out of, the response. And I understand, AI is about building off of past knowledge so that it can, continue to build off of that from different, vantage points and scenarios. So again, those were my thoughts. What are your thoughts?
So definitely, I would say more of the government clients have been asking about Copilot. And I'm kind of still waiting to see when it's going to be officially released. Because of course, it has to go through that whole certification process. It has to be FedRAMP. I am starting to see a little traces of it just kind of pop up.
Yeah.
And I would say one of the things where our team was actually tasked with coming up with the strategy for this federal government agency to help them with rolling out Copilot, or how can it be contained, or or is it just going to pop up one day,
explode, and everything's going to be open to everything?
Right. Exactly. So that's a good point, right? It's planning for the data, because if the data is not secured and some data gets exposed that shouldn't be exposed, that's going to be a big problem. Because permissions in SharePoint has always been a nightmare.
We're going to say challenge. Okay. It's been a challenge.
I'm going to say, the reason why I use that big word, because I was thinking it was a softer word, but then I was like, no, it's actually been a disaster for a very long time. And I say that because I have been brought in so many scenarios, or my team has been brought into so many scenarios to help people with understanding the permissions, because end users can do a lot of things that takes them down the wrong road.
Right.
And that's where oversharing, in my opinion, comes into play. And so oversharing means that, again, people can have information to items that they probably shouldn't have access to, which is a big concern, especially in the government space when we're working with sensitive data, classified data. So that's definitely not going to work in those type of scenarios. All right. So what other products that are interesting to you these days?
I've found a new appreciation for Whiteboard.
Okay.
I know that it's been around for a while, but people have been using other collaborative planning tools like Figma and Miro in order to collaborate with different teams and, make boards, and even Jira. So Whiteboard to me was a surprise because, one, it's free. And it comes with a lot of templates that you could just use right out of the box, right? Especially if you're doing a brainstorming session, if you are collaborating with the team where they're just trying to gather feedback. It's been good for that. It also has been good for creating flow charts and processes. And I think that it's underused. I think people just think of it as a place to scribble. And, they don't really take into consideration the added benefits. Now, it's not as robust as some of those other tools. I think that it's your basic planning session application that Microsoft already gave you. Why not use it? Especially if you're not trying to share it externally or anything like that. It's just a team project that you want to use. I'm finding it useful. I've created a couple of flow charts and processes with it. I mean, it is a little manual, but I think all flow charts are. So Whiteboard, I would say, if you haven't tried it, at least take a look at it. It may be able to help, with your collaborating brainstorming session. So another one.
Wait, before you shift. So I also use Whiteboard too with the client. I thought it was a good visual representation of understanding the plan for the project. So when we think about, especially data migrations and what goes where, we color coded the different types of documents in the notes, and then in the sticky notes, I guess I should call them. And we then said, okay, who's the audience? Who's the content owners? Well, then that goes over here. Move that over there. And then it helped us to bucketize our content to help us with the strategy. And it was a good visual representation of, okay, where are we trying to get to with this data migration?
Absolutely. And once you've done all that and you've placed them in these buckets, you can then transfer it into Planner and then start assigning those tasks to those people that you have allocated in Whiteboard, which is another tool within Microsoft 365 that's free, that you can use in collaboration with the whiteboard. So that's a very good point. I've used the sticky notes. They use it sometimes. I know teams use it sometimes for team building, and the light, what is it, the one truth and a lie or something like that, when you can kind of get together virtually and you're trying to break the ice, or you're doing like a kickoff, excuse me, and you just want to kind of lighten the mood a little bit. We've used it for that as well. So I like it. I think it goes well with Planner. And I was going to talk about forms, but what are your thoughts on Planner?
Well, I love Planner. So I love having, like, moving the tasks between the between the buckets during our client meetings. And that helps us stay on track with understanding like who's doing what the status is, going through our QA process before we actually deliver a product or deliver a solution to a client. And so and then to clarify, so when you say free, meaning it comes with the license already.
Yes. I mean, it's not like a premium where you have to buy an additional license. My apologies. Right. You're absolutely right. Nothing is free. You hear that? Nothing is free. So when I say that, you already have it with either your E3 or your E5 license, right? So,
right, or your business. I think it comes with the business license too.
Enterprise, maybe?
Yeah.
No.
I don't know. But yeah.
One of those. But you know what I'm saying. You already got a license that you're paying for, and it came with it. Say that.
Right. And the license is changing all the time. So you have to just check.
Oh my gosh. I was in the weekly matter of fact, I pinned it. In the weekly message from the message center for Microsoft, we had something to talk about. Was it Copilot or was it? I thought I had it pinned, but Purview. So you remember when Purview was compliance, or
yes.
Let's talk about that. Let's talk about why Microsoft feels it's a good idea to continue to change the name of their products just randomly. And not even that. I'm sorry.
Go ahead. I'm
not going on a tangent. But Teams, which used to be Teams something, and then it was Teams for Work and Business, and now they have dropped it since they've gotten rid of the original whatever the Teams was, and now it's back to Teams again. Have you experienced that?
I have seen a lot of names for Teams. Like, it was like Classic.
That's what the original was, Classic.
It's Classic. Yes. And then I did see, it's like when they're sunsetting to a new product, they'll use the Classic because the modern experience rolling out.
Yeah.
But I've also seen on my my Surface Pro, I have seen the work for Teams, and I was like, what is this?
What are you doing?
Can we not do? I don't even want to talk about that, right? Because you're going to get me on this whole thing that annoys the crap out of me, quite honestly, that like AD has changed. Like,
yes. Is it Intra now?
It's Intra ID. I don't want to call it that. I'm over it. I'm going to call it AD for as long as it lives, because that's what it is. Okay, let's just
stick with something. And how do people who are not in IT, they're like, oh, I just want to do a flow. It's not called that anymore. It's Power Automate now. So
I know.
They're so confused. And they're like, if you're not in IT and you're communicating this to people who are just basic users, they're just trying to use the functionality that they got on their home computer. And they're like, well, last week it was this. Is this the same thing? Is that? So
that's the same vibe with Yammer. And I think maybe their intentions behind the change with Yammer is that it did get a bad rap.
It did.
And I think it got a bad rap because companies would just roll it out with no plan and people would use it for a month or two and then they would abandon it because there was no strategy. So I felt like they rebranded that from Yammer to Communities that was in Teams to Viva Engage. And they are adding more features into Engage, it seems. Can we shift gears to forms? Please.
Forms. Yes. I like forms. I really, really like forms. When I just found out, maybe, and I might be behind in it because I don't use forms very often, but I just found out that you can do invitations, like
Mm,
RSVP invitations and forms. I mean, of course, they are already had polls and the survey feature, but I created one that was like a retirement, invitation, and you RSVP, and I was like, this is really cool. It's like a template that you could just spin up. Like it literally took 5 minutes. Are we able to show that? I wanna.
yeah, go ahead and show it because I do want to show you something else using forms connected to Teams SharePoint that was interesting too.
Okay.
All right.
There you go. Okay. Awesome. So, this is what I thought was really, really cool, how now forms can send invitations and you can RSVP. I think I was talking about it before. And it's like previewing it, you can just click start now and, start adding the people. And this is just a template. And if I ever wanted to go back and maybe change the background, I could change the style. We'll say maybe later to that. Um, I could change the style. How cool is this?
Yeah.
And there's your invitation, just like that. So I just wanted to share that because I had no idea that they did invitations. And then this is what you would get, an automated invitation when you send it out to, people that you want to join the office party or any type of holiday party that you would have at work. So I just thought that was really cool. I'm going to stop sharing now.
Yeah, I think that's pretty smart. Give people the tools they need.
And it
Because
makes it easy. And so what I'm finding out is I did a demo not too long ago on, the title was Tools Within 365 That You Have That You Didn't Know You Needed. And I got a lot of oh wows, and I didn't know that was there. When can you do a training class to show me how to use this stuff? And it was exciting because I've been trying to push for products that we already have without spending more money, and just making utilization of what we already are paying for, right? So that's just one of the other Microsoft 365 tools that I absolutely love.
what I like in SharePoint now is that when you go to a list,
Mhm.
remember when I shouldn't say remember when, but I don't know if you've gotten asked, is there a way that people can fill out the form and then they don't see all the list data behind the scenes? Now you can do that.
Oh, yes.
Click
You
on
mean
form.
the list? So you're talking about the standard SharePoint list.
Yes.
Okay, okay,
I'm just going to call it form collection here. And notice
okay.
that you have the title columns. That's the only column I have. If you have more columns, you can select which columns to show and hide. You
Mhm,
have themes, of course. You can select the settings to accept responses. And then when you're done, just hit send form. So
mhm,
now when someone was to respond to your form, all they're
mhm,
doing is just entering information into the form, hitting
mhm.
submit, and they never see what's behind the scenes in the list,
Oh.
right? So now, of course, as the person that maintains the list, they see the
Mhm,
data that's entered
mhm.
into the list.
Oh, and that's off of the new item?
Yeah, it's based off of new item, of course, but it's like
Okay,
giving
okay.
them a form instead of hitting new item.
Right, and you're getting one that looks, it's the form version of the list, is what you're saying.
Exactly. Exactly.
Oh, no, I have not seen that.
No,
I'm checking to see if I have it on mine now.
okay.
What's so strange is that, and I'm learning this, that like your business environment may be different than like the government train of thought,
Yes.
because this is coming.
Yes, it is different
Um,
because I set my tenant to be targeted release so that as soon as updates
got
roll
it.
out, they hit the tenant. right away, versus like usually a
Got it.
business tenant is going to be like standard release where they have to wait
Mhm.
for the releases to finally hit the tenant, or it's different people to see those updates.
Got it. Okay, that's what makes the difference.
All right, we're going to continue
Yes, we
on next
will.
time.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye bye.